Well, hello friends. Today is kind of going to be a mixed outdoor day. We're going to do a little bit of a pumpkin tour later. You may ask, what pumpkins? Yeah, all the pumpkins behind me. Mostly that I've harvested from the field. I obviously supplement some from other places or purchase some if I don't have quite the ones I want, just because every year is so different. This wasn't as good a pumpkin year, which we'll talk about, but mostly that was my fault. But we're also going to winterize, as in take in a couple plants. So you see behind me is beautiful elephant ear. I think these were coffee cups elephant ear. These are the second year I've used them because I save them year to year. So all I do is take them out of containers, I put them in my plant room, and that winterizes them. But I like to do it a few weeks before I have to put them in so they can slowly acclimate and adjust to the new container they're gonna go inside. So we're gonna start with that. We're gonna talk about saving them, what I do, and then move on. To start, we of course have Kip here with me. He's helping me. And usually how I keep him entertained is just have a toy or something that we can be both playing with. But where we're working, you can see, is the flower bed right beside my front door. So there's the front entry, or what I call the front entry. It's really a side entry to my house. Now you can see these elephant ear have been here since May, and we're definitely in fall now. And they're starting to get hard to keep looking good because the wind has kind of started to ravage them, but also they dry out almost twice a day because they're getting so large. All the roots from the annuals are getting large, which you can see here. Look how big these beautiful annuals got around them. So we have that purple heart, we have the lemon coral sedum, we have the heliochrysum, and the coffee cups here in the center. It's all been beautiful. It does really well where it gets, probably around 5 hours of sun a day, but it's taking a toll. They're getting really full. Those roots are really starting to drain it quickly. So I'm gonna start by taking out all these annuals. Now, if you want this purple heart, it saves so easily. You can just plant some up, or you can take a whole bunch out, pop this in water, and it will root, and then you can plant all those cuttings eventually if you want to, or you could even dry probably root them. But I'm gonna start by taking all this out, putting it in a discard that I'll of course compost, and then we'll talk about saving the center here. So now that all the annuals are out of here, you can see it really opens up the workspace. Now some of these tall pieces, just from the wind, are starting to fall over, which we can either cut them off or just wait till we replant it. It really doesn't matter either way. But what we have here is a large root ball. It's made a little bit easier now that I have the annuals out, but I like to still take a knife. You could take a shovel, but for me, every time I've tried to take a plant out of a container with a shovel, I end up breaking the container because the force can be too much, and then you can kick back and accidentally hit the container, especially a breakable one, thus breaking the container. So what I like to do is just take a good knife, sharp knife, kind of go down at an angle. This is how I take my agave out of pots, really kind of anything. This is what I'm doing. And it is going to break up the roots, but that's okay. It's really like root pruning. So as I go around the whole thing, you're going to see I can easily, eventually, start lifting it out, which is what we want. Now, there could be multiple plants in here, and that's fine. We'll see how we want to plant it up after, but see how quickly and easily we can take this out and now save it. It has some really viable roots on there. It has a lot of beautiful growth. So while this is only year 2, I'm expecting to have this for many years to come. So I'm over here at the gator now. This is where I bring both of the elephant ear I'm saving. Now, you can easily, if you want to at this point, you could split them apart, just right down the center and have 2 plants. My plant room is full enough, so I don't like to do that. But what I do is try to go through and cut off some of the excess pieces that then I'll compost too. Like if they're broken, like some of this is, I'll just cut them off, discard them, put them in the compost pile, things like that. Just because sometimes you can tell they were getting kind of grown into themselves and don't have the best room. So I just look for a nursery container that I know it will fit. So what I do is I lift it up, put it in. You can see it's a little tight. So on this one, I'll probably knock off a little bit or split it. So if it's getting too big, that's when you need to start splitting it. And so I'll take off probably a little bit of soil, honestly, because I don't really think I'm gonna split this one. And then it will fit just fine. So if we do that, you can see now it fits right down inside of it. So I keep a lot of soil right beside me so it's easier to fill. But I always use just espoma organic all-purpose potting soil. And I use this for any of the plants I save during the winter. It's easiest just to be able to plant them in something you know is going to be good, and it's good for their long-term benefits too. It has a lot of organic matter. So I'll put it right in here and fill it up as much as I need. So it kind of depends on how big that root ball is to begin with, but you can put it in. Now, I do not waste the soil when I'm using it. So this is going into a nursery container that I'm going to save and use again next year. That means when I bring this container out, I'm going to keep the soil. It's only in here a few months over the winter. It's not really taking the benefits out of the soil. So next year when I'm filling up containers, I'll use this soil. This is not going to go to waste. But I filled up enough, so that might be actually too much. You want to do it so it has a good level inside once it gets down in. Which you can see, that's just about perfect. So see how now all we need to do, it's just a little bit bigger than the plant, which is going to work just fine for saving it. This is when it comes in handy to have it inside something, because as I start filling it, see how easy this is? And any excess soil falls back into the container. That way I can save it. You could put a tarp down on your yard too if you want to, but I will be going around, turning it, filling it. All this is going to help make sure there's no air bubbles in there. So when we water it in the plant room or just over winter, you could bring this in as a house plant even. It can just make sure it's totally full. So I have one more to do, and we can start the pumpkin tour. Now that the hard work is done, I thought we could go over a little bit of a pumpkin tour. Why not? You know, I love pumpkins. I especially love the changing of seasons, and I like to embrace it as fully as I can, immerse myself in it, feel it, experience it, and just enjoy it. Because, you know, if we dread a season, it makes it even worse. And while winter I know can be hard, we can find moments in that too. But let's fully experience fall. We're gonna go on a pumpkin tour. I'm just welcoming you into my house. You're gonna come on around the house on the outside, because that's where the pumpkins are. And we're gonna look at them all. So the party starts right here when you drive up and park. This is where you walk out of your car right up to the front door. So I want to make it welcoming. I want to have everything piled. Now, you know I love to grow pumpkins. This year, things got a little out of control. Kip was in the hospital for a little bit, my French bulldog. Weren't you, buddy? Yeah, he was. He's right here, but he's doing good now. And it just kind of took me away from being able to weed the pumpkins and water them properly and kind of watch for bug control. So while I did get some, I definitely supplemented some this year too. So I like to always line the walkway with just various squash and pumpkins. Obviously a lot of these are heirloom squash, not all pumpkins. But what I also mix in are my different collections of terracotta jack-o'-lanterns. I also have some black terracotta ones. And I like to mix those in with just their battery operated lights or candles in there, so you can take off, it comes with a top. You know, you can find these, I think, online still. They're a terracotta made only, I think, by one company, but I really like them because they're simple, and you can turn them backwards if you don't want the jack-o'-lantern to be showing. That's what's really nice about it. But if you take off right here, you can see this one doesn't have anything in it, but let's go down to one that does. I think I need to get one more candle for that one. Right there. You can see that candle's actually going already, which it shouldn't be, so I need to adjust the time on it. But it's really nice because this then offers, you know, just a way for water not to get in there. But all the way up and down this walkway, Kip wants to show you here, we have various sizes all grouped together. And then, since we just took out what was in these containers, I put in some big grape pumpkins. Because why not? It just adds a pop of orange, it puts something in there, and you don't have to water it. I love to look for things that you don't have to water. So as you round the corner here, you can see all the way up to the doorway, we have various pumpkins and squash, and then some of my favorites, the different jack-o'-lanterns too. So what's really nice is these year to year, obviously, I just reuse. And like I said, if you want to put them out in September but don't want them to look Halloween, you can flip them all around so the back side would show nothing, as you can see, and just be like the terracotta ones will just look kind of complacent, which I really like. And they go all the way up to the door. Yeah, it's a lot of pumpkins, but you know, when you grow as many as you can, it's kind of fun to use them. And even if you supplement some, what I really like is it adds a pop of color, it adds a welcoming feeling. If you have trick-or-treaters, it's really exciting. But also they last for quite a while. So here in Iowa, I'm in zone 5B. It kind of depends when we get our first frost, but usually it's not till mid-October, sometimes late October. So that means until you have a hard freeze when the pumpkins start actually getting frozen, they're gonna last that whole time until they start freezing. So you want to enjoy them that whole time. Now, once I'm done with them, I either donate them to maybe someone that's doing some type of gathering or event. Sometimes I do that every year. Or I'll put them in an area where I know there are deer, even though deer don't come to my house. I put them in an area where there are deer so I know they can eat on them then too. So one or the other, they do get used. But I also want to take you up on the front porch because I do have a few up there, and we'll look at a couple plants along the way to show what they looked like this time of year too. The one thing I want to touch on is that I do not shellac my pumpkins. I do like to wash them when they're coming out of the field or if I bring them home. Sometimes I'll wash them in a light solution of just a small amount of bleach to get off any bacteria, but I find just a good wash is really what helps. And also making sure if it's really hot, they're out of direct sunlight until it starts getting cooler. We've been having some nice cool nights, so it's been really good for that. But as we come up here, you can see just a simple pumpkin. I still have a lot of my plants out, which are doing really well. But if we come over to here, do you remember this succulent planter? It is still doing so well. Now, I'm not gonna take this apart until we start having, threatening below 40 degrees cold, which will be not for a little bit yet. But what I really want to show you is up here on the front porch. I've really tried to marry together the plants that were here and some pumpkins or things. And I do like to have certain things that I can save year to year. So these big wicker pumpkins were a new addition this year, and they do have tiny lights on them. You can't see it right now, but at night, these little lights, there's a little one right there. They're little LED lights and they just kind of glisten. So there's a few of these that I have sitting all along the front porch so you can enjoy them. And then just the rest are mixed in squash and pumpkins with kind of everything else. I don't like to just throw out all plants this time of year, and obviously I save most of my plants. Like for one, I want to show you here, look at these hanging plants. The ferns are fine in them, but look at this massive string of, I think this is a string of bananas if I remember right, it's a senecio. But they have gotten so massive all along my front porch, so these get saved every year too. This is the second year, I think, for these. But that's why I like to mix in things like pops of color with a few pumpkins. So things like my ferns, those variegated tiger ferns, they still look really good. So I'm gonna keep them up there in their containers until I have to take them out and take them in. Ferns you can keep year to year. They can be kind of messy when you first bring them in because when they acclimate to the indoor temperatures, they do like to shed a lot. They need a lot of water, some bright light, but they do really well indoors. But then I just kind of start supplementing all around them with different types of squash and pumpkins. I'm coming out of the yard so you can have just a better overall view because I know I'm told a lot that I don't get good overall views of the yard or of the front porch here. So this kind of gives you a snapshot what you see from down in the yard. This is a lot of times where I'll sit in the evening or sometimes in the morning if it's kind of nice and quiet. It's just kind of a nice reprieve. And so the little elements of some pumpkins and squash just really make a huge difference in setting off some color. A great thing to do if you feel like you don't have the right size item is to set it up in something. So this squash was a little short and I wasn't seeing it, so I just put it in a little cast iron urn and it elevated it just enough that it kind of gives you that height differential that you want between the different pieces, because it's always good to have various heights. So as you can see, I like to have different heights, and this just lifted a little bit, made a huge difference. So what I thought we could do now is I'm gonna actually wait now a few hours and get here closer to dusk, and that way you can see the jack-o'-lanterns as they go on, because that always makes a huge difference to be able to see them and to experience them in the evening so you can kind of see what they look like lit up. So we're gonna wait here a little bit and then I'll show you what they look like at night. The sun is somewhat set, so I thought Kip and I could come out and show you, Kip really wanted to show you, what this looks like in the evening. So you can see my pathway lights, they come on. They're just low voltage hardwired lights that I installed years ago, Kitchler brand. But if we come up here on some of the pumpkins, you can see the terracotta ones just have battery operated lights that have timers in them. So they go on for like 6 hours, I think, in the evening. And the batteries usually will last well over a month because they're only on for a few hours. But you can see here as we turn around, oh, I love this moment when all the jack-o'-lanterns are starting to like light up. And it's so nice because they can't go bad. These terracotta jack-o'-lanterns are just kind of fun. See how they just kind of keep, look at all of that. It just kind of creates a cozy mood outside, especially as you like go right up here to the door that will go into the house. So I hope you can see what it looks like now in the evening. It's getting dark enough that soon you won't see me and you'll only see the lights, but it's just kind of one of those cozy atmospheres that whether you're having people over or not, you know, do it for yourself, do it for your enjoyment. That's what this kind of stuff is all about to me, is what makes you happy. And especially even looking out my window for my kitchen, because that's what's right here. This is what I see. So all day if I'm at the kitchen sink, if I'm working, this is what I can see right outside my window are the pumpkins. And what's really great about the terracotta, if you turn them, they look just like a pumpkin. So if you don't want those to have that look like a jack-o'-lantern until October, keep them turned the other way and then turn them with a face, which it's a happy face, during October. So you can kind of make it work for whatever you want. But that's my pumpkin time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it inspires you maybe to create some pumpkin areas of your own, because that's the fun part of it, isn't it? To make it your own and to enjoy it. So happy fall. Let's go get some pumpkins.